You guys can remember Daredevil Season 2, Episode 9, 7 Minutes in Heaven, and holy shit, guys, right when Daredevil seems like it's about to go completely off the rails, this episode happens, and this was a amazing episode. I mean, there were so many amazing things about this episode. We got not one, but two returns in this episode, which I'll get into. We had this really incredible scene that I definitely want to get into. There's a lot to get into in this episode. A lot happened, and let's just get into it because I really love the way this episode was done. Definitely some very big scenes in this episode, but I first want to talk about the first 10 minutes of the episode because they were very well handled. Because of course, as we know, at the end of the last episode, Wilson Fisk is back. He, told Frank, "Oh, I'm glad I see you got my message," and we don't know what that's about. And basically, we see everything that happened in Wilson's prison life leading up to that. We see Wilson going to prison, and you kind of have to feel bad for him a little bit. I mean, he's no longer in power, and basically, he's told to remove his suit and his cufflinks, which, when he's removing those cufflinks, I won't lie, there was a bit of a tear in my eye, because these are his cufflinks that mean so much to him. If you remember, he has that story about the cufflinks and everything, and he has to, take off that entire suit and everything. It's very sad, you see, and he has to put on a regular prison uniform, and he's put in white and led to his cell, and then, basically, this is when things get really interesting, because he looks completely miserable, obviously. He's obviously really upset by what's going on, and his attorney, Donovan, comes to visit him in jail, and this was very interesting, this character of Donovan that we meet here, to discuss his limited remaining assets and keeping his wife safe, which we find out that Vanessa, because obviously we need to know what's going on with Vanessa. Vanessa's safe overseas, being taken care of with Wilson's assets, and he says, I don't want to see her, I want to keep her safe, and I don't think Wilson's ever going to end up seeing Vanessa again, because obviously he wants to keep her safe, he doesn't want to involve in what he's involved in, and I really like the way that was done here. So I like that we got just that little tidbit of Vanessa, but it was something that I was wondering about, what happened with Vanessa, where's she been, and I like that we saw that here. And then we meet this another mobster who is actually a challenge to Wilson, and I like the way that this was done. It basically talks about how he wants to keep a low profile, and Wilson does not need to give anyone another reason to keep him in jail longer. But then in prison, he meets another prisoner named Dutton, who pretty much is the kingpin of jail, which I thought was really cool. He called himself the kingpin, and he calls himself the boogeyman of crime. He pretty much is the one in power here. Wilson's not the one in power, and he's kind of a threat to him, and I like the way this was done. He threatens to keep Wilson in line, and Dutton exerts his prison power, tells Wilson that he's the kingpin of this bitch, and of course, this is not so well with Wilson because his name is the Kingpin, obviously. So Wilson ends up befriending another prisoner who was a mortgage analyst in the real world, and he tells Wilson that men like them, white-collar criminals, need to stick together. He becomes Wilson's assistant, and pretty much he gets another Wesley, which the way that he was able to do this I thought was very interesting. Basically, we see this white-collar criminal approach him to make friends. Wilson starts making plans to rebuild his empire from inside prison, and I thought that was really cool the way this was done. And just the way that he's doing this all inside the prison I thought was very interesting. I definitely really like that. And he also learns that there was a heroin deal that went south, and Don returns to jail to visit Wilson again. Wilson gives him a series of orders. Basically, Wilson's paying off people on the outside with connections on the inside, and basically, we then see that Donovan tells Wilson that his cash is almost gone. However, Wilson's not concerned because he does not think he will need any more. He has spoken to a guard that will help him. He also hears about the Punisher's story, which this was something I like because obviously we need to know, how did Wilson know what was going on with the Punisher? And at the same time, we realize that, the Punisher, he does know what he's doing. He heard about his story and everything, and he wants to use the Punisher basically to be his guard. We see at the end, he says, I see you got my message, and now we pretty much know what's going on, that Wilson's going to try to get the Punisher to help him out, and basically the Punisher is going to be kind of his new Wesley, which I think is very interesting. So I thought that was a great way to start things off. We needed to get that backstory with what's Wilson been up to, and why is he in prison, and how does he have this connection to Frank, and just like that whole thing with the, just like the Electors episode, or even like Punishers in the beginning, we got all this very quick exposition, so it keeps us from having an entire entire Wilson-centric episode. I heard a lot of people say this episode should have been completely just Wilson and Frank, but no, because everything else that happens in this episode is completely incredible, and I love the way that it was done. So, amazing way to start the episode, and it also reminds us how great Vincent D'Onofrio really is this character, but the thing is, you see him upset, you really do, but you also see him kind of hopeful because he knows that he will eventually be in power. He'll get things his way. That's how it's going to go, and I love the way that was done. Amazing stuff with Vincent D'Onofrio here. Great way to start the episode. And then we see another really sad scene, actually. We see Elektra's pouring Stick's concoction into Matt's arrow wound. He lays on the floor recovering a cleanup crew of some kind, whitewashes all trace of death in combat from Matt's apartment, and when he's finally lucid, they talk about her killing the ninja, and why, and the hand, and who she truly is, and he basically realizes, finally, who Elektra really is, that she's an assassin who enjoys killing. He tells her he won't judge her for who she is, but he is who he is, and they can't keep corrupting each other, and he just can't do it anymore. I mean, he understands that she's gonna kill, but they had an agreement, and she completely, went against it. She didn't go against she went completely against their agreement. She didn't listen to what he said, and she tries to convince him that their love is real for each other, but they can't be together, unfortunately, and fight the hand, because they're just so different. Elektra's gonna kill, and Matt's not going to, and they just can't be together because of this. And Elektra says that he'll die fighting the hand alone, and we pretty much get Elektra's exit in this episode. So right now it seems like Elektra is done, and I'm sure we're going to see her again by the end of the season, but right now at least it seems like we're going to take a break from Elektra for a while. Kind of like what we did with Frank, where we took a break from him after 4 episodes, and he came back in episode 6. It seems like that's what's happening with Elektra, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be again 1 episode. We'll see her again then, but basically Elektra, and I like that Matt finally realized that they're not working. They're not working, they can't be together, and as much as Elektra wants them to be together, it's just not realistic. I mean, she has this bloodlust, and she needs to understand that. And I like that Matt talked to her about this, because she does. I mean, she loves killing. That's the thing. It's not that she kills, it's that she loves what she's doing, and Matt hates killing. He doesn't want to kill. He thinks it's completely wrong, and they just can't be together because of it. So, very sad. Definitely very sad the way that was going, and I definitely felt very bad for Elektra and Matt, for Elektra there, because, she's a crazy bitch. She really is. She's crazy, definitely, but she also really loves Matt. You definitely see that. I thought that was very well handled, and I definitely really like that. So Wilson and Frank are talking, and we finally get that conversation with them here. Wilson expresses sympathy for Frank's losses, and Frank doesn't want his bullshit. He doesn't want to deal with him, and Wilson tries to point him out as a guy in power by telling him he was involved in his family's slaughter, and Wilson and Frank decide to make this deal, and Frank thinks that Wilson is scum, but he knows that Wilson's right. He agrees to do as Wilson asks, and he doesn't really know what he's getting himself into, but just the fact that Wilson expresses sympathy and, understands what he's going through, basically, that's what he decides to do. Basically, Wilson is Frank to his bidding by luring him to know the man who was responsible for the drug deal that brought the 3 gangs together on the day his family was slaughtered. And we start to wonder, was Dutton possibly the one responsible? Was Dutton possibly part of this? And Frank really doesn't want to work for someone that was a has-been, because that's the thing. Wilson's no longer in power, but he is acting like he is. And Wilson explains the benefits of this, gets a ship from Finney to carry out the plan, and you don't really know if this is going to work, but I like the way that was done. Very good stuff there. Then we get another really sad scene. I mean, this episode is just riddled with depressing scenes. Foggy shows up at Matt's place to ask for space to for things to cool off, and they argue about his vigilantism and how it's really ruined a lot of things, but Matt basically tells Foggy he'll never change, that he and Karen are better off without him, and Foggy feels that they should it's better that they close Nelson and Murdoch. That's better they close it. Things are just crazy right now, and especially after what happened. I like what Foggy says, that he has no idea how they lost the case, that they were very close to winning, and he has no idea how they lost, and he feels that this is Matt's fault, and Matt and Foggy, obviously, they're kind of not just ending Nelson and Murdoch, they're kind of ending their friendship for a little bit, which is really sad, definitely. And I definitely really like the way this was done. I mean, you can tell, I love what Foggy says here. This quote, I think this is honestly going to be a very famous quote. Like, when we look back at Daredevil, it's going to be one of the first quotes that comes to mind. He says, "You don't get to create the danger and then protect us from that danger." Because that's the thing. Foggy's never liked Matt being the Daredevil. You know that. I mean, Foggy's never liked what Matt does. He thinks it's dangerous. He's always been concerned about him. And now it's even more terrible because he knows that he's fighting with Elektra and he's causing all this crime, but then he's, defending someone who committed all this crime. It just doesn't work that way, and he can't keep doing that anymore, and he really doesn't want him to be Daredevil, but that's just who Matt is, and for right now, they've kind of put a damper on their friendship. They can't really be friends anymore, and basically, Matt used to be able to, separate his friendship from Foggy and being Daredevil, but now he's just being consumed by Daredevil. He's not apologizing for who he is and tells Foggy he's better off without him. And I love what Foggy does here. You know, he didn't necessarily want to be like, you know, it's done, but you know, Matt doesn't give him any other options. He says there's nothing else you can do. You know, he's upset, definitely. You can tell that he's upset, and definitely I felt very bad for Foggy here, because again, this whole case was never Foggy's idea. Foggy never supported it. He simply just went along with it because they needed someone to defend Frank, obviously, and Foggy was the one that did that. So very sad stuff. Really did feel bad for Foggy and Matt here. I mean, no one really, obviously, they both screwed up, definitely, but it really was just Matt can't balance his life between being the Daredevil and being Matt Murdock. He doesn't really know how to do that anymore. And maybe 2 seasons ago, he could, you know, one season ago, he could do that, but this season, he just can't do that. So at the office, he's packing up, and Karen is not ready to end things. She arrives with more info that she dug up that might expose D.A. Reyes' cover-up, because obviously Reyes, there's something that she's covering up, and they don't know what it is, and she is not going to go down without a fight. And basically, she also is digging into John Doe from the Frank trial, whose autopsy was altered by medical examiner Gregory Tepper. And, you know, Wilson's telling, you know, not Wilson, Foggy's telling her that we're done and that he tells her to let it go. She wants to fight to make things better, but Foggy tells her to be careful with Matt and suggests they both move on. And I like what Karen's thinking. She's thinking that everything's going to be solved. You know, she's thinking that there's just a temporary setback between Foggy and Matt, but Foggy's not so sure. Foggy thinks it's going to stay this way, and you can tell that Karen really wants to get things back to the way they were, but right now everything's just really broken. Everything's really, you know, not the way they should be, and Karen can't really do anything, unfortunately, which I really did feel bad for, because really she's just trying to do the right thing, but unfortunately it didn't work out for her. I felt really bad for Karen this episode, definitely, and basically she decides to go to, you know, basically, I definitely thought it was sad what happened here, definitely very sad, and I definitely did feel bad for Karen in this episode. I felt bad for everyone, but Karen especially. I mean, she just wants things to go right, and the thing is, again, Karen's completely outnumbered because she has no idea really what's going on. You know, Foggy has to hide this secret that Matt's the Daredevil from everyone. He's kind of tired of doing it. I honestly thought Foggy was just going to expose Matt in this episode. I really thought he was going to do that, because that's the thing that's pissing him off. The fact that he has to keep covering from him and covering from him, and it's not working, and he's not even staying loyal to them, really, and he's not even doing anything for Foggy's benefit, it's pissing him off, and he has a right to be upset, definitely. So I really like the way the scene was done. Really amazing stuff between Foggy and this episode, and definitely very sad. So we then see Matt, he seeks out the accountant from a few episodes ago. Remember the one that said, "I'm not Yakuza"? We find out who that is in this episode. He's with Stan Gibson, and basically he finds out that they're holding the Yakuza accountant's son hostage at a drug facility called the Farm. Now, he doesn't know what the Farm is, but, you know, he knows that that's where he needs to go, that he needs to head out to the Farm because he needs to track the Yakuza, and it's clear that he's going to continue to do this on his own. He's not going to have Elektra help him. He doesn't think he needs Elektra, and that's what's crazy, is that Matt works alone. We've realized this. Matt works alone. He can't work with anyone because who challenges him, and especially Elektra. I mean, she doesn't just challenge him physically, she challenges him mentally, and he can't really do that anymore. So definitely very sad there. Karen then returns to the newspaper to talk to Ellison, Ben's old editor, and you knew that she wasn't going to go down. She wasn't just going to stop doing this. You knew that there was going to be more going on here. She's not just done, and definitely there's gonna be more of this. You know that she's not just going to end what's happening here, and she brings them to Gregory Tepper, who is, you know, basically she meets Ellison in the bulletin, and he wants her to keep digging. He says that she should keep digging, and she wants to give it him and walk away, but he convinces her to stick with it, and that it's the best thing to do, that she has a point, that if there is more evidence, and if there is a way to make Frank look innocent, by all means, they need to try to do that, and I love seeing that. Really great stuff there. And I love Karen's determination. That's something I love, that she's not going to go down. She's going to continue doing this, and I love that. So Frank then kills the prison boss's bodyguard, tells him that they need to talk, and basically he begins his plan of attack to get to done per Wilson's arrangement. The guard tells him he has 7 minutes and promptly kills Dunn's cellmate with a throat slash before questioning Dutton after the gangland murder and who pulled the trigger first. So very crazy scene. He actually did this, and 7 minutes in heaven, I love that that has to do with the 7 minutes that he had to kill Dutton. I mean, really crazy stuff, and you can tell that he definitely is going to try to listen to Wilson, because Wilson pretty much gave him this offer that he really can't refuse in the end. So I'm not trying to go all Godfather here, but that's kind of, yeah, he can't really refuse this. So meanwhile, Matt gets the accountant taken to the Hand's place to get his son back, and because obviously he needs to get to the farm, he doesn't know where he's gonna get to where he's gonna go, but he knows he's got to get there. And Karen and Ellison then go and talk to the corrupt, disgraced mortician, and he tells them that the John Doe he fudged details on was an undercover cop, and that's really interesting that we found this out. And that's really all we find out here. We don't know what that's all about, but definitely very interesting. I like that we found this out, and basically, this is an undercover cop. Now, who this could be, we don't know, but definitely there's an undercover cop out there, and definitely I'm very interested in seeing who that's going to be, because this definitely is far from over, and I love seeing that. Definitely really great stuff there. Frank then gets some answers, though, about the night his family died from the prison boss, and has some unseen men called the blacksmith who was responsible. Now, we don't know who the blacksmith is, but definitely the blacksmith we know is the person that was responsible for killing Frank's family, and was a police sting gone wrong, and Frank kills him anyway. He doesn't care that he's giving him information. He kills him anyway, and Wilson's prison guard then locks him in, and this scene, oh my god, I could not get over this scene. I mean, we've had some amazing fights in this show. We've had a hallway fight. We had episode 3, the hallway that turned into like a hallway down a stairs fight, that crazy thing. But this episode, without a doubt, had my favorite fight scene we have had yet in the show. It was so hard to watch, but it was just incredible. And Frank has been very low-key in the past few episodes. He's been very low-key. He's been trying to go straight. He's been trying to do right, and this just pisses Frank off. This is the last thing that Frank needs to hear, because he now knows that the blacksmith was the one who did this. He stabs him in the gut, lets him bleed out while he returns to the gate to be let out, and Wilson tells Frank, thanks for carrying out his dirty work, plan to have Frank killed. He's just going to kill him right then and there, but Frank is not going to let this happen. He doesn't care that Wilson's trying to kill him. He's not going to let this happen. The entire cell block is freed and sees that Dunn was killed, and pretty much they go after Frank to kill him, and Frank just goes full-on Punisher mode here. He goes through cell block one prisoner at a time. He's stabbing guys in the gut, gouging out eyes, using a makeshift hatchet to slice up a guy's skull, breaking necks like they're peanut shells. I mean, he's just taking them out one by one with nothing really going on. It's crazy to see, and he also doesn't want Wilson, himself thinks that him like this guy that's kind of a pussy and everything. He doesn't want them to think that either. And he slaughters every single one of them. And I love that shot. It was very hard to watch. This scene in general was like, holy shit, oh my god, oh my god. I was freaking out during the scene. It's such an incredible scene though. I mean, again, amazing stuff from Jon Bernthal, because this isn't the Punisher just being the Punisher. This is him realizing why he's the Punisher. This is him going out on a vengeance. This is him killing every single one of them, because now he knows who killed his family, and now that he knows that, he's not going to go down without a fight. He's going to make sure some people die, and I love the way that scene was done. Amazing stuff. Jon Bernthal just killed it there, which I'm not surprised that he's been killing it all season, but just, oh my god, that was incredible. Just the way that whole scene was executed. The guards then gas him. They take him to his cell. You don't know what's going to happen, but basically really crazy, and definitely that was really insane the way that was handled, but I love the way that was done. Like I said, Jon Bernthal just killed it there. So Matt catches the Japanese Roxanne guy off guard. We don't know, again, who it is really, but basically he infiltrates the farm. He smells blood coming from the basement. He asks what they're growing down there, but when he gets to the basement, he finds Stan's son Daniel and other kids having their drained blood. So we find out what the farm is doing, which is disgusting, we find out, and he finds Matt's threats funny, and he hears these unsettling things in the basement. We don't know what they are, but basically Karen and Ellison talk about figuring out how deep the cover-up goes, and he gives her Ulrich's old office to work in, which, great scene overall. I love the way this was done. And we also go back to the idea that Karen's hiding something in this episode, because she goes to Ben's office to work in, and while there she finds Ben had a file on her that included a drunken teenage incident that got someone killed, and he tells her he doesn't care, and neither did Ben, and she's crying because of this. It's clear that there's something that happened with her brother. I don't know if her brother was involved with something, or if she killed someone because of someone that killed her brother. We don't really know, but there's definitely, I think, something that happened with her brother. We heard about it in episode 6, and we know that there's more going on there. So something is going on with Karen. She definitely is hiding something that we don't know, and that no one knows about. So I'm interested in seeing really what that is, because I like that we don't know this, and it keeps Karen's character interesting. She's already a great character, but they can make her even more interesting that way. I love the way they've been handling her character, and just the fact that this is going on is very interesting. So Wilson then visits Frank in a secure cell, and remember, Frank is like tied up here. He has like he's like chains around his hands and like around his feet too. And he's impressed that the stories about Frank's violence were true and plans changed because he didn't know if Frank really was this tough guy. He thought that there was just a story and that he wanted people to think he was intimidating. They fight, which is really crazy. Again, remember he's in chains, and eventually Wilson tells Frank that he'll set him free to kill his way to justice because obviously he wants to be set free. And Frank swears someday he'll kill Wilson. Wilson's counting on him to try, and he's going to make sure that Wilson is killed because he really wants to kill Wilson. And just the fact that someone is challenging Wilson like this, outright challenging him, is crazy. And basically, Frank leads him to find the blacksmith to do it for his family. He's out of prison, and now he continues. Already he's out of prison, but, you know, Wilson set him free. Crazy the way that that was done, but I love the scenes between these two, and I understand, like, I'm sure we're going to see Wilson again in the upcoming episodes, but right now, at least, it seems like their partnership is done, because they can't work together. Wilson and Frank, Frank is just too powerful. That's the thing. Frank's too powerful. He's not just going to listen to Wilson. He's going to do his own thing, and you really saw that here. Amazing stuff. I love the way that was done, and I can't wait to see what happens, as the episode goes on. Definitely, that was really great. I love seeing that. Definitely amazing stuff there. So Matt's being led downstairs by Daniel to the basement where he finds the accountant's son and several others being slowly drained of blood to feed, which, holy shit, I don't know how to feel about that. That was insane. I don't know what I don't really know what to say about that because that was crazy. But basically there are dozens of tubes carrying their blood into a huge black van that's about as big as an SUV. This isn't just a blood drive. That's not what this is at all. This is them like literally giving their blood, and what they're using this blood for, we don't really know, but who else is being held hostage? I mean, we don't really know any of this yet, and I love that. I like that we don't really know what's going on there. It keeps things interesting, and especially for the last 4 episodes, which we have 4 episodes left this season, I don't really know what's going to happen here. And that's when this thing gets crazy, because that's when seemingly we see this ninja cloaked in black. He's carrying the same weapon as Nobu during their blow that left Matt near death, and Nobu burned to death, and then he realizes Nobu's not dead. Nobu is completely alive, and we'll get back into that, because then we see Wilson sits with the former prison kingpin as he dies, and, you know, Dunn's not dead yet, but he's about to die. He's not dead yet, though, and he's claiming the title for himself as Frank is let out of prison in riot gear, and what Wilson says here is very interesting. He says that there was only room for one kingpin in prison, so cold-blooded, and, I loved seeing that. You can see that now it's a great way to reintroduce this character to the series. It shows that he's still in power, and even if you infiltrate him and try to challenge him, he will still make sure that he's the one that ends up victorious. I love the way this was done, and, you know, I've said it before, I sympathize with what Wilson's going through. He really wanted to clean up the city, make things right, but he fights dirty. That's the thing. He wants to be in power, and that's the reason why he's such a threat. But you do kind of sympathize with the guy because he's had everything taken away from him. He's had his wife. Hasn't gone to defeat the man he wanted to track down, and now in prison he's starting to start things up again, and I love seeing that. Amazing stuff. Vincent D'Onofrio is killing it, and I'm sure we're in for another amazing stuff from Wilson. I can't wait to see where this goes because it's just awesome to see Wilson Fisk again, and I still can't believe that he's back. I mean, I can't believe the show actually brought him back. Amazing stuff. Just great stuff there. So, of course, Matt is thinking there's no way that he's alive. He references the Scarzy game and he's about to flee with the blood. Matt says that he's dead, but Nobu says there's no such thing. So that's really weird that he says there's no such thing. I have no idea what that means. He escapes with this weird giant urn that they were feeding blood into. He says there's no such thing as him being dead. So Nobu's alive, we see. Is Nobu Black Sky? Because as we know, Black Sky is the threat to what's going on. Is that I'm assuming that Nobu is the one. He does have that scar there, but the fact that he's alive, how? I don't really know how he survived. I'm sure we're going to find out, but it kept things interesting. That's how the episode ends, and guys, this was right up there with episode 4. This was very close to my favorite episode of the season. I mean, episode 4 was incredible. It was an amazing episode, but this was very close. I mean, from everything from the 10-minute Wilson introduction, everything he's been up to this crazy scene with Wilson and Frank, to Matt pretty much losing everything this episode. Matt and Wilson are in very similar circumstances. They've lost everything, and Wilson's building it back up while Matt seems to be losing everything. It's really sad to see, but that's kind of the way things were. He's now lost Elektra. He said goodbye to her. He's lost Nelson and Murdoch. I mean, he's pretty much lost everything, and I don't really know what's going to happen, if he's going to be able to start things up again, if he's going to be able to get things back to the way they were. I feel like Matt wants to, but it might just be too late. I mean, I don't really know. We'll have to see what happens there. crazy stuff overall. Is Frank going to find the blacksmith? I mean, we know that the blacksmith is out there. We now have a name. We know who killed his family, but we don't know who that is. Definitely, that's going to be very interesting to find out who the blacksmith could be. How is Nobu connected to this whole thing? Because it's clear that he seems to be the guy in charge. Like, he is Black Sky, definitely. We still don't know what Stick was saying when he said we need to assemble more of a team. So I'm sure we're going to see Elektra again. This is definitely not the last we've seen of her. We're going to see her again this season. In what capacity, I don't know, but we're going to see her again. I can't wait to see how we see her again because she's an amazing character, and I'm glad that this is not the last we've seen of her. Definitely, it's not the last. I heard she's in the finale, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that. I like that Wilson is starting things up again. Even though Frank has challenged him, he's going to make sure that he's the one in power. And I will definitely, I'm going to say right now, we are definitely going to see a Wilson and Frank show off before this end. They're going to fight. They're going to take, one of them's going to take each other down. And I think one of them's going to die, honestly. I don't think that one of them is going to, they're both going to get out of this. I think one of them's definitely going to die. I don't know if Frank's going to be able to take out a towering figure like Wilson. I mean, we know how strong Wilson is. He's a big guy. I mean, he was lifting a 400-pound weight. So someone like Frank who actually challenges him, or is he actually going to be victorious? I don't really know. I mean, Frank is so powerful in the sense that he's so emotional when it comes to hearing about his family. That's why he killed his people. It was not because he wanted to do what Wilson said him to do. He did the complete opposite of what Wilson told him to do. He did this because when he hears about his family, it, you know, made him rage. He wanted to kill someone. He had to go after them. That's what he wanted to do. Amazing stuff. And the way that he was just able to take them down is crazy. But I do still sympathize with the guy because his family has had his family ripped away from him, and you understand why he is in the position he is now. What is going on with Karen? Like I said, she is definitely hiding something, and I don't exactly know what it is that she's hiding. We just know that there definitely is something going on there. Either, you know, the whole thing with her, you know, and her brother. Like I said, I really think it has to do with her brother. We know, we've heard before, stuff has happened to her brother. We know that definitely there was something that was a cover-up, and especially since Ellison said he doesn't care. That's very interesting. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what she's hiding, but there's definitely something about Karen Page that we just don't know yet, and I love that. And I like that her meeting Daredevil is kind of out of the question right now. We don't need to focus on that. We need to focus on her getting to learn the as the Daredevil. That's not what we need to focus on. She's doing her own thing, and I love that. And who is the undercover cop? Because obviously, that's the John Doe. We don't know who it is. Definitely very interested in finding out who that is, and I'm sure we're going to find out very soon. What is Foggy gonna do? Because Foggy seems to be the odd man out now. You know, he wants to end Nelson and Murder, but at the same time, I feel like he wants to start it up again. But Matt's in no position to do that. He's very pissed at Matt. Karen wanted to do something with him. What is Foggy really gonna do? I don't really know what Foggy's next move is. He's like the one where I'm like, I don't really know where we're headed, but of course I'm interested. Foggy is the one person, though, that really doesn't have anyone at this point. I mean, Karen now tried to convince him, but he didn't do that. Matt, he's no longer working with him. He kind of has no one, and Matt doesn't really have anyone either, but Matt, you know, is just so powerful in that way. So I'm interested in maybe if they're going to try to, you know, turn things around, try to make amends, because I definitely feel like that's what Foggy wants to do. He wants to make amends with Matt, but Matt's just being so stubborn that he doesn't know if that's going to be possible. We'll have to see what happens there. I can't wait to see what happens between Matt and Foggy and what happens with that. What is Elektra going to do without Matt? I'm interested in that as well, because obviously Elektra's now out on her own without Matt, and I'm interested in seeing how she's going to be without him. Definitely that's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see how that goes. And definitely, we're in for a crazy last 4 episodes. We only have 4 episodes left this season, and I cannot wait to see how the rest of this plays out. Like I said, this was very close to my favorite episode of the season. Episode 4 is still my favorite, but episode 9 was just so close to getting to see Wilson again. I mean, you can tell how much we miss Wilson Fisk. I think they know how much we miss Wilson Fisk. I think they knew that we wanted to see him. I think they knew that there were people who weren't enjoying this season because we weren't seeing Wilson Fisk. I've been loving it regardless. You guys know that. I haven't needed Wilson Fisk to make the season amazing. I think Frank has been filling the void enough to, Frank has been filling the void enough to, you know, not have us forget Wilson Fisk, but have us not need him there. But now that he's there, and now that we have this whole thing going on between him and Frank, now I can't wait to see what happens with this character, because this is a lot more interesting. The fact that Frank is challenging him, the fact that Frank could possibly be going after him, I don't really know what's going to happen, and I love the way that's being handled. I'm a bit worried, though, because I heard people say the end of the season is kind of messy, and it's not exactly going to work, but I do think I have a clear direction of where we're headed. The Hand is definitely our main threat, but Wilson is our other threat, and I love that. I definitely think that's going to be interesting. Of course, they have no idea that Wilson's back. I mean, how's Matt going to react to that? How's Falk going to react? I mean, it's really going to ruin a lot of things if they find out Wilson's back. I like that they don't know that he's back right now because that keeps things open for the other episodes. I love the way that I love the way that they're doing that, definitely, because obviously this is the one person that Matt thought he took down, and of course he's going to realize that he didn't take him down. And it seems like, again, just like the rest of the season, like I said, the season of the villain of the season is personal demons. Why? That scene with Frank is the perfect example of that. The personal demons inside of him. He couldn't just hold back anymore. He needed to kill. He needed to do that. Wilson's personal demons are his power. He needs to be in power constantly. Elektra's is the violent attitude and just the nature that, you know, she enjoys. She enjoys violence and everything. Karen's is whatever's going on with her. And then Matt, of course, is just everyone coming back to me. He's not able to get rid of this whole thing with not killing. It's really ruining everything for him. But anyway, guys, I'm going to guys saw this episode. Like I said, amazing episode. Definitely very close to episode 4. And we'll see you guys in my next one, which will be for a movie review, which I know you guys won't be, you know, can't wait for it. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.